Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. So ever since I opened a Telegram group, link in the description, I've been interacting a lot more with my subscribers. And what I realized is that a lot of people are actually confused on what type of hardware configuration should they opt for whatever their use case is, and end up with hardware or end up with laptops that don't really provide them with any real world practical benefit and end up wasting money. So in this video I'll give some advice to beginner laptop buyers or desktop PC buyers on how they should choose what type of configuration should they opt for. But before beginning, if you are new to the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notification. And also guys, join the Telegram community, link is in the description. Alright, with that said, let's get right into it. Okay, so the very first thing that you must decide is your use case. Do you want your laptop or PC just for casual use? Do you want it for gaming or do you want it for content creation? Then you should look for the best possible configuration that is available in your budget. Guys, remember, there will always be a faster CPU, a faster GPU, a faster configuration. But you must make your configuration based on the components that will actually give you a real world benefit. You'll understand this more as this video progresses. Now, before we even move into the various use cases, you must keep at least one thing in mind. No matter what, you must have at least 8 GB of RAM on your system, and you must run your operating system and the applications, the frequently used applications, off an SSD. Please do not use a hard drive in 2023 as your boot drive for your operating systems or your frequently used applications. Because no matter how fast your CPU is, if your storage is slow, your CPU will be just sitting around idle waiting for the storage to catch up. Now I'll be focusing on laptops because this channel is mostly around laptop content. So if all you're looking for is a laptop for casual use or for office productivity or for, let's say, coding, for let's say web development or something like that, then you don't necessarily need a very high core count CPU. You will instead benefit more from having a better display, like let's say something of an aspect ratio of 16:10 or 3:2, so that you can see more lines of code at once, or let's say you can see more records in your spreadsheet program. Also, you will benefit more from larger battery sizes because battery life is extremely critical in this product segment. In terms of the CPU, even an Intel Core i3 11th Gen will be fine. And depending on your budget, higher end processors like Ryzen 3 5300U, Ryzen 5 5500U, 5700U, and Intel Core i5 1135G7 or Intel Core i7 1185G7. These higher processors will give you some benefits depending on the level of multitasking that you do. So higher core count processors will enable you to juggle between multiple apps. If you open multiple apps, these higher core count processors will help you juggle between those apps and give you an overall fluid experience. But I do recommend sticking with Ryzen in this product category because Ryzen is quite a bit more efficient than Intel, and also Ryzen 5000 and Intel 11th Gen, if you compare the two, Ryzen tends to provide you with more core count at the same price point, and also, as I said, it's more efficient, so you'll get better battery life. I recently made a video on the best laptops in this product segment. Do check it out to know which laptops provide you with the best value for money. Okay, so the next most common use case is gaming. Now, if you are looking to build a desktop PC or buying a gaming laptop and your primary use case is gaming, then the most important component in your system is definitely the GPU. The CPU also matters, obviously guys, but up to a certain point. You will see very little benefit going beyond 8 cores, and what matters more is your clock speed and cache size. The higher, the better. So the rule of thumb is the faster the GPU you have, the faster CPU you need to pair it up with. But obviously up to a certain point. The good thing is all CPUs released in the last couple of years like Zen 3, Ryzen 5000, Intel 11th Gen and above are all good enough for gaming. Now coming to the GPU, and it's pretty simple. The higher end graphical fidelity you want, the faster GPU is what you need. And the higher resolution you want to game at, the more VRAM capacity is what you want in your GPU. For 1080p gaming, 4GB of VRAM is still enough, although some games need more than 4GB of VRAM. But in 2023, it looks like 6GB of VRAM will finally be the norm even for 1080p gaming. For 1440p gaming, you need anywhere between 8GB to 12GB, and for 4K and beyond, you need minimum 16GB of VRAM. Right, so let's now talk about choosing a configuration. I'm gonna give you a couple of situations and you answer me in the comments. Situation 1, let's say you have a budget of 60,000 rupees and you have got two laptops at the same price. One laptop with a 12 core 16 thread Intel Core i5 12500H with a GTX 1650, and the other laptop is a 4 core 8 thread i5 11300H with an RTX 3050. Which one would you opt for? Answer me in the comments. Alright, so here's the real answer. The choice should be pretty simple. If what you're looking for is a gaming laptop, you are after the gaming performance, the RTX 3050 configuration is the clear choice. Why? Let me tell you. When comparing the GPUs, the RTX 3050 and the GTX 1650, the RTX 3050 is having an architecture which is 2 generations newer. It has double the amount of CUDA core counts and it has newer technologies like DLSS. And in terms of gaming, it is just flat out better. Now when it comes to the CPUs, the 12 core 16 thread i5 12500H absolutely crushes the Intel Core i5 11300H, which only has got 4 cores and 8 threads. But here's the deal, for gaming, the i5 11300H is more than good enough to be paired with an RTX 3050. And since the RTX 3050 is a much faster GPU than the GTX 1650, you will get a much better gaming experience, much more FPS is what you're gonna get with the RTX 3050 configuration, even though the i5 12500H is much faster than an i5 11300H. The CPU doesn't matter here because for gaming, the 11300H is fast enough. It's more than fast enough to be paired with an RTX 3050. So based on this knowledge, you must definitely avoid configurations like the i7 12700H with an RTX 3050 or 3050 Ti, which sells at around 95,000 rupees in many laptops. This is a bait. You should not opt for configurations like this. Instead, at the same price, you must opt for configurations like a Ryzen 7 5800H with an RTX 3060, because both the 5800H and a 12700H is fast enough for gaming, but the RTX 3060 is a much faster GPU than the RTX 3050 3050 Ti. So overall, a 5800H and RTX 3060 configuration generally comes at a lower cost as well, will provide you with a much better gaming experience compared to an i7 12700H configuration with an RTX 3050. So yeah, if gaming is your primary consideration, you should definitely opt for the configuration that has the faster GPU. Now here's the second situation, and this is a more complicated situation. So let's say again you have the same 60,000 rupees budget and you've got two laptops. The first laptop is the same 4 core 8 thread i5 11300H with an RTX 3050, and the other laptop has a 6 core 12 thread Ryzen 5 5600H with an RTX 3050, but it costs 2000 rupees more. Now which one would you opt for? Answer me in the comments. So in this situation, let me tell you, even though you only have 60,000 rupees to spend, I would highly persuade you to increase your budget to accommodate that 6 core Ryzen 5 5600H with the RTX 3050 configuration. Because here's the deal. Let's say in the future, if you start doing more demanding tasks, let's say you are starting and you want to not only play games, but you also want to stream the game. Let's say you have the game open, you have your streaming client open, you have a web browser open, let's say a couple of programs open in the background. In this situation, the 6 core 12 thread, the extra 2 cores and 4 threads will give you a much more breathing room. The Ryzen 5 5600H will give you much more breathing room and make your systems more future proof. So having that higher core count just for extra 2000 rupees is definitely worth it, because it's making your system more future proof. It is giving you more breathing room when you're doing more demanding tasks, like as I mentioned, like when you are going to be streaming. The Ryzen 5 5600H will help you juggle between the tasks and at the same time maintain those high frame rates when you're streaming. Whereas the 11300H in this situation will make your whole system sluggish. Trust me, I know that because my Helios 300 has an i5 8300H, and I can clearly feel the difference when I'm streaming. When I stream with my Helios 300 with 8300H versus when I stream with my brother's Ryzen 5 4600H system, which has got 6 cores and 12 threads. There is definitely a big difference between the experience. So for 2000 rupees more, I highly recommend you getting a 6 core with an RTX 3050 configuration. And yes, definitely in 2023, I feel a 6 core CPU should be your minimum CPU when it comes to gaming, because the prices have dropped quite a lot. You can get 6 core CPUs at 50,000 rupees price range, and then depending on your requirements and your budget, you can choose the GPU that you want. Now I do not recommend the GTX 1650 anymore for gaming, because the Radeon RX 5500M, that is about 10 to 12% faster, is available at the same price. However, I highly recommend getting at least an RTX 3050 in 2023, as the prices for RTX 3050 is also dropping rapidly. Along with all this, you must also rock at least a 16GB RAM configuration in dual channel, because it will definitely give you that extra 10% performance that you are lacking with 8GB of RAM. Many open world games definitely require more than 8GB of RAM, and you are definitely keeping performance on the table. So if your laptop comes with an 8GB of RAM configuration, which is pretty common, you must get another 8GB RAM stick, which is really cheap these days, guys. Only takes about 1700 rupees or so. So it's definitely worth spending that extra 1700 rupees to unlock that extra 10-15% performance. Okay, lastly, let's talk about content creation, which includes activities like video production, 3D modeling, and also game streaming. Okay, so let's tackle video production and 3D modeling first. Now, what type of CPU or GPU should you need to create content or produce videos in applications like DaVinci Resolve, Adobe Premiere Pro, and others? Well, you need CPUs and GPUs with good media encoders and decoders that are also supported by the video editing application of your choice. These are dedicated hardware blocks that are tailor-made for encoding and decoding certain video codecs, essentially accelerating your video editing performance. It essentially helps your CPU accelerate that video editing performance by offloading some of the tasks on the GPU. These media engines come with your GPU. It can be in the integrated GPU that comes along with your CPU, or it can be on your big dedicated GPU. Have you ever wondered why the Apple M1 SoCs outperform many higher-end desktops in overall video editing performance, even though the CPU in the Apple M1 SoC is much weaker? The reason is the GPU that comes inside the Apple M1 SoC is loaded with many different media encoders and decoders that are capable of handling all sorts of video codecs. The robust media engine inside the Apple M1 SoC is the reason that it is able to keep up or beat many higher-end flagship CPUs that are present in the desktop space. Now, if you look at this chart by Puget Bench, you can clearly understand why an Intel 11 Gen CPU and above, along with an RTX GPU, should be the ideal choice for video editors in the x86 space, as these have the best media engines. You can also clearly see how underrated Intel's iGPU is inside these 11 Gen and above CPUs, as these iGPUs with the quick sync technology can even accelerate 10-bit 422 H.265 codec that even the RTX 40 series doesn't support. And from this chart, we can also realize that even though how good AMD RDNA iGPUs are for gaming, it is really not that useful for video production. So an Intel 11 Gen CPU and above, along with an RTX GPU, should really be the ideal choice for video editors if you're really serious about it. However, when it comes to laptops, I kind of prefer having a Ryzen CPU along with an RTX GPU. The reason is that the efficiency difference between Intel and Ryzen is so big that I'd rather prefer having that longer battery life in laptops, because the battery life is really crucial in the laptop form factor. And the NVIDIA RTX GPUs are no slouch for video editing. They also support a bunch of video codecs, and they definitely easily handle the 8-bit 422 H.264 footage that is produced by my Sony a6100 here. So in my opinion, in laptops, a Ryzen CPU along with an NVIDIA GPU is kind of the best of the both worlds, because you get the performance from Ryzen, also the efficiency, and you also get the great video editing performance provided by the NVIDIA RTX encoders. Now, along with good media engines, I also highly recommend, depending on your budget, to get higher core count CPUs. Minimum 6 cores definitely, and definitely the norm should be at least 8 cores if you're really serious about video editing. The reason is, not everything in your video production pipeline is accelerated by the GPU. Not everything has been optimized to be shared in between the CPU and the GPU. And when the GPU cannot help the CPU, the entire load is put on the CPU. So the CPU has to work extra hard to process those video codecs. And that's when you really need lots of cores and threads. Now, in terms of 3D modeling, you absolutely need GPU compute power. And in this department, NVIDIA is unbeatable. NVIDIA is able to leverage their RT cores using their optics API in applications like Blender, 3D Studio Max, Cinema 4D, Maya, etc. and provide unrivaled 3D compute performance. And that's exactly the reason I said that the Acer Aspire 5 with the 12-core i5 1240p and an RTX 2050, which is basically an RTX 3050, is the absolute best choice for content creators and 3D artists who are at a tight budget. If you're having like a budget of 55,000 rupees or so, then the Acer Aspire 5 should be your absolute choice. It has the high core count Intel 1240p. Not only it has high core count, but it also has that excellent Intel iGPU for quick sync, 12th gen iGPU for quick sync that will help you accelerate a bunch of different video codecs, and it also has the RTX 3000 encoding engine, which means you have both sides covered. You can also render high quality 3D modeling with this GPU because it supports optics and has those ray tracing cores. So that's exactly the reason that I mentioned that the Acer Aspire 5 at this price range of 55,000 rupees is absolutely the best choice for content creators and 3D artists, on a tight budget. Lastly, when it comes to game streaming, the ball is again in Nvidia's court because of their excellent RTX 8264 encoders, which provide much better footage quality at the same bitrate when compared to AMD's RDNA 8264 encoders. Nvidia also has the better support in streaming clients like OBS, Discord, etc. So essentially for game streaming, I highly recommend getting a good quality RTX 3050 laptop at around 65,000 rupees or so, or jump up all the way to the 80,000 rupees price range with the RTX 3060. So that's it for my recommendations. Hope you guys learned something and will now be able to make better decisions. Also, comment down below all your queries and I am there to answer them. Also guys, the Telegram group is there. Join there for further interactions. That's it for this video guys. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, share and subscribe. Take care and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.